The wallet hit the sidewalk with a soft thud. No one noticed except the girl who stopped walking. She was young, underdressed for the cold, carrying a grocery bag with one torn handle. Inside the wallet were thick bills, black cards, and a name she didn't recognize. She didn't hesitate. Didn't count the money, didn't look around. She ran after the man who dropped it. What she didn't know was that the man wasn't alone. From across the street, inside a parked black car, someone else had seen everything. The pause, the decision, the choice she made when no one was watching. The moment she returned the wallet, the man in the car sat up straight. Because in his world, people didn't give things back without wanting something in return, and the girl had asked for nothing. Backhand index pointing right, stay till the end. Because that small, honest choice would pull her into a world of power, danger, and protection she never asked for, and the man watching her would soon realize she was worth more than all the money she returned. The wind cut through the street like it had teeth. Maya Collins pulled her thin jacket tighter around herself as she stepped off the bus, the doors folding shut behind her with a tired hiss. The stop was nothing special, just a metal bench, a cracked concrete sidewalk, and a flickering advertisement that hadn't been updated in years. Evening traffic rolled by in steady waves, headlights blurring into white streaks as the sky darkened toward winter. Maya shifted the grocery bag in her hand. The handle was stretched thin, plastic biting into her fingers. Inside were a loaf of discounted bread, a carton of eggs, and a can of soup she planned to split into 2 meals. It wasn't much, but it was enough for tonight. Enough was a word she used often. At 18, Maya had learned how to measure life in small units: bus fare, hours worked, meals stretched just far enough. She lived with her grandmother in a narrow apartment above a closed laundromat, the kind of place where heat came and went without warning and the ceiling leaked whenever it rained too hard. She worked part-time at a corner pharmacy, saving what she could, dreaming quietly of community college without ever saying it out loud. Dreaming made disappointment louder, so she walked with her head down, eyes on the sidewalk, counting her steps to stay warm. That was when she saw it. A black leather wallet lay near the curb, half open, as if it had slipped free without a sound. Maya stopped, not because it was unusual, things got dropped all the time, but because of where it was, too close to the street. One careless step from being crushed under a tire or swept into the gutter. She bent down and picked it up. It was heavier than she expected. Her fingers brushed against smooth leather and crisp edges. When she opened it, she froze. Cash, not a few crumpled bills. Not tip money, a thick stack of $100 bills, neat and deliberate, pressed against multiple cards, black, silver, names embossed in clean lettering. The kind of wallet she had only ever seen in movies or behind glass cases. Her heart thudded. For just a moment, only a moment, her mind did the math. Rent, grandma's medication, tuition application fees, a coat that didn't let the cold through. No one was watching, traffic flowed, pedestrians passed without looking twice. The city moved on, indifferent. Maya closed the wallet. She didn't count the money, she didn't look around. She turned. About 20 yards ahead, a man in a dark overcoat walked with long, confident strides, phone to his ear, attention elsewhere. Something about the wallet felt like it belonged to him, not because of the money, but because of how carelessly it had been lost. Maya broke into a jog. "Sir." She called. The man didn't hear her. She jogged faster, breath fogging in front of her face, the grocery bag bumping against her knee. "Sir, excuse me?" He stopped and turned, irritation already forming on his face, then paused when he saw her holding the wallet out with both hands. "You dropped this," she said, slightly out of breath. The man stared at the wallet, then at her, then back at the wallet again. For a second his expression didn't change, then something shifted, subtle, guarded. He took it from her slowly, flipping it open, eyes scanning the contents with practiced speed. Everything was there. He closed it. "You didn't take anything," he said. It wasn't a question. Maya shook her head. "No." He studied her face, her worn sneakers, her thin jacket, the grocery bag digging into her hand. You could have, he said. She shrugged, uncomfortable. It's yours. The man nodded once, slipping the wallet into his coat. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a bill, then another. Take this, he said, holding them out. Maya's stomach tightened. No, she said quickly. I didn't, for your trouble, he interrupted. She shook her head again. I wasn't doing you a favor, I was just returning it. The man paused. Most people argued when offered money, or pretended not to want it while waiting to be convinced. Maya didn't. She adjusted the grocery bag and took a step back. Have a good night, she said politely, already turning away. He watched her walk back toward the bus stop without looking back once. Across the street, a black sedan idled at the curb. Inside, a man sat in the back seat, posture relaxed, hands folded loosely in his lap. He had seen the wallet fall, had seen Maya stop, had watched her open it. He had waited. People always told you who they were in moments like that. When Maya ran after the man instead of slipping the wallet into her bag, the man in the back seat straightened slightly. Interesting, he murmured. The driver glanced in the mirror. Problem? No, the man replied. The opposite. He watched Maya from behind the tinted glass as she sat on the bench, swinging her legs gently, unaware of the attention she'd drawn. She checked the time on her phone, hugged her jacket closer, and hummed softly to herself, something low and tuneless, like she was keeping herself company. Follow her, the man said calmly. The driver hesitated. You want me to? Not close, he added, just enough. The car rolled forward smoothly. Maya didn't notice the sedan. She boarded the bus, paid exact change, and took a seat near the back. She rested her forehead lightly against the window, watching the city slide by in tired fragments, neon signs, dark storefronts, people wrapped in their own lives. She felt lighter, not because she'd done something good, but because she'd done something right. At her stop, she stepped off and walked the 3 blocks home, past the boarded-up laundromat and the narrow stairwell that smelled faintly of detergent and dust. She climbed carefully, unlocking the apartment door quietly so she wouldn't wake her grandmother. Inside, the apartment was warm in the uneven way it always was, too hot near the heater, too cold by the windows. You're late, her grandmother called softly from the bedroom. Bus was slow, Maya replied. She set the groceries down and began putting them away, unaware that a black sedan now sat across the street, its engine off, its lights dark. From inside, the man watched the building. Find out who she is, he said into his phone. There was a pause. She didn't ask for anything, he continued. Didn't even hesitate. Another pause. Yes, he said quietly. That matters. He ended the call and leaned back, eyes still on the apartment window where a light flicked on, then off again. In his world, loyalty was bought, fear was enforced. Kindness was usually a transaction with better branding. But the girl had returned a wallet full of money and walked away like it meant nothing. And that was exactly why she mattered. Maya curled up on the couch that night, unaware that a single, ordinary choice had placed her under the watchful eye of a man who rarely noticed goodness unless it disrupted something dangerous. She fell asleep thinking only of tomorrow's shift. She didn't know she'd already been marked. Not as a target, but as something far rarer, someone worth protecting. Maya Collins woke up the next morning to the sound of her grandmother coughing in the kitchen. It was the dry, stubborn kind that always came before the weather changed. Maya pushed herself off the couch, careful not to make the springs creak, and padded into the kitchen. The apartment smelled faintly of instant coffee and toast. Her grandmother, Ruth, stood by the counter, one hand braced against the laminate, the other holding a mug. You should have woken me, Maya said gently. Ruth waved her off. You worked late, sit, eat. Maya obeyed, she always did. As she ate, her mind drifted back to the night before, not the money, not the man who dropped the wallet, but the strange feeling that had followed her home. Like she'd stepped into a moment that mattered more than she understood. She shook it off. People dropped things. She returned it. End of story. That was how normal life worked. Across the city, in a penthouse that overlooked the river, Adrian Vale stood at the window with a phone pressed to his ear. She lives with her grandmother, the voice on the other end reported. No parents on record, no criminal history, works part-time at a pharmacy. Clean. Adrian watched the water move slowly below. And the wallet? He asked. She didn't touch the cash, cameras confirm it, returned it within 30 seconds. Adrian exhaled softly. 30 seconds. That wasn't enough time to debate morality, that was instinct. And after, he asked, no follow-up, no social media post, no attempt to contact the owner again. Adrian nodded once. Keep watching, he said, discreetly. The call ended. Adrian turned from the window and walked back into the room where two men waited silently. They were dressed like professionals, tailored suits, neutral expressions, but they moved with the awareness of people who knew how quickly rooms could turn violent. She's not running a play, one of them said. No angle. I know, Adrian replied, that was the problem. In his world, people always wanted something: money, protection, access. Returning a wallet without expectation wasn't generosity, it was defiance of the rules. Maya's day unfolded exactly the way she expected it to. She walked to the bus stop, clocked in at the pharmacy, restocked shelves, smiled politely at customers who didn't see her. The world remained small and predictable, which was how she liked it. She didn't notice the man in the gray hoodie across the street when she left work. She didn't notice the car parked 2 blocks away when she got off the bus. She didn't notice the quiet pattern forming around her life. That night, as she locked up the pharmacy, her manager called out, Maya, wait. She turned, yeah. There's a man here asking about you, he said, confused. Says he's a donor? Maya frowned. A what? Before her manager could answer, the man stepped forward. It was the same man from the night before, the one who'd dropped the wallet. Up close, he looked less hurried. More deliberate. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said politely. Maya's stomach tightened. Is something wrong? No, he said, nothing like that. He glanced at her manager. Could we have a moment? The manager hesitated, then shrugged. I'll be in the back. They stood in silence for a beat. I wanted to thank you properly, the man said, for returning my wallet. Maya shifted her weight. You already did. He smiled faintly. I don't think I did. She crossed her arms, suddenly self-conscious. I didn't do it for thanks. I know, he said. That made her look at him more closely. Most people didn't say that unless they meant something by it. I'm Adrian, he added. Adrian Vale. The name meant nothing to her. I'm Maya, she replied. I know. The word landed wrong. Her shoulders tensed. How? I asked, he said simply. Your manager was helpful. That didn't make her feel better. I don't need anything, Maya said quickly, if that's why you're here. Adrian studied her expression. No, he said, I wanted to understand something. She frowned. What? Why you did it, he said. You could have kept the money. Maya shrugged. It wasn't mine. He watched her carefully. And that was enough? Yes, she said, a little sharper than she meant to. Isn't it supposed to be? For the first time, Adrian looked unsettled. In his world, morality was a luxury, something people talked about when it didn't cost them anything. With Maya, it clearly had. I won't keep you, he said finally. But if you ever need something, I won't, she interrupted gently. She didn't mean to be rude, she just needed him to understand. Adrian nodded once. Then let me do this, he said. He reached into his coat and pulled out a card, not a credit card, but a plain white business card with a number printed on it. No name. Maya asked, You already know it, he replied. She hesitated, then took the card. Only call if you need help, he added. Not favors, help. Maya slipped the card into her pocket without looking at it. Have a good night, she said. She walked past him and into the dark street, heart beating a little faster than before. Adrian watched her go. She's clean, one of his men said later that night. We've triple-checked. Adrian stared at the city lights. That's what worries me, he said. Because clean people didn't last long in his world. And now, by noticing her and letting her notice him, He had placed her closer to danger than she could possibly understand. Maya lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, the business card warm in her pocket like a secret she didn't want. She didn't know why the encounter unsettled her. She didn't know that the man who'd been watching her was already adjusting his world around the idea of her existence. And she definitely didn't know that someone else, someone far less patient, had also noticed the girl who returned a wallet full of money and asked for nothing in return. Act 2 ended with curiosity turning into attention. And in a world like Adrian Vale's, attention was never harmless. Maya realized something was wrong on Wednesday afternoon. Not in a dramatic way, no sirens, no sudden confrontations. Just a quiet shift in the rhythm of her day that made the air feel heavier. It started at the pharmacy. She was restocking cold medicine when a man stepped into the aisle and stopped a little too close. He didn't reach for anything, didn't ask for help. Just stood there pretending to read labels while watching her from the corner of his eye. Maya moved down the aisle, he followed, her pulse quickened. "Can I help you find something?" she asked, forcing politeness into her voice. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just looking," she nodded and walked away, pretending not to notice when he didn't buy anything and left 5 minutes later. By itself, it meant nothing. But when she stepped off the bus that evening and noticed the same man leaning against a parked car across the street, her instincts, honed by years of living carefully, began to scream. She turned down a different block. So did he. Maya didn't run, running drew attention. Instead, she ducked into a crowded convenience store and stood near the counter, pretending to check her phone. The man stopped outside, glanced in, then kept walking. Her heart pounded. By the time she reached her apartment, her hands were shaking. "Everything okay?" her grandmother asked when Maya came in. "Yeah," Maya lied, "just tired." She didn't sleep much that night. Across town, Adrian Vale listened as one of his men finished speaking. "She was followed today," the man said. "Not ours." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Describe him." The description was enough. Adrian closed his eyes briefly. "Daniel's people," he muttered. One of the men frowned. "You think they connected her to you?" "They don't need to," Adrian replied. "All they need to know is that I noticed her." He stood abruptly. "Pull surveillance closer." "No mistakes?" "She doesn't know who you are," another man said. "That won't matter," Adrian replied grimly. "Kindness makes people curious. Curiosity gets noticed." The next day, Maya decided to take a different bus route home. She told herself she was being cautious, not paranoid. The bus dropped her near a strip mall she rarely visited. She walked quickly, keeping her head down, counting steps the way she always did when she was anxious. Halfway across the parking lot, a voice called out. "Maya!" She froze. She turned slowly. The man from the pharmacy stood near a black SUV, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed. "You've been busy," he said. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Do I know you?" "No," he replied. "But we know someone in common." Maya's throat went dry. "I think you have the wrong person." He smiled thinly. "You returned a wallet on Monday night." Her stomach dropped. "That man," he continued, "he's not the kind of person you want noticing you." "I don't know what you're talking about," Maya said, backing away. "Sure you do," he said calmly, "and now he's curious. That makes you a liability." Before she could react, he stepped closer. "Lucky for you," he said, lowering his voice, "we can make this go away." Her mind raced. "I didn't do anything," she said. "Exactly," he replied. "So let us fix it?" Her fingers brushed the business card still in her jacket pocket. "Adrian," she swallowed hard. "What do you want?" she asked. The man studied her for a moment. "Nothing complicated," he said. "You just come with me, we talk." "You tell us what he asked you, what he knows." Fear surged sharp and cold. "No," she said. The word came out steadier than she felt. The man's smile vanished. "You don't get to say no," he said. A car door opened behind her. Maya spun and froze. Adrian Vale stood a few feet away, flanked by two men who moved like shadows given shape. Actually, Adrian said calmly, she does. The man stiffened. Adrian, this doesn't concern you. Adrian's eyes were cold. It concerns me the moment you touch something I'm watching. Maya stared, stunned, watching. The man laughed nervously. Since when do you care about girls like her? Adrian didn't answer, he simply stepped closer. You followed her, Adrian said quietly. That was a mistake. The man hesitated, then shrugged. You noticed her first, that makes her your problem. Yes, Adrian agreed, it does. He turned slightly, shielding Maya without touching her. You go back and tell Daniel this ends now, Adrian said. She's not leverage, she's off limits. And if he says no, the man asked, Adrian's expression didn't change. Then you'll wish he hadn't, he replied. The man held Adrian's gaze for a long moment, then backed away. This isn't over, he said. It is for you, Adrian replied. The SUV pulled away. Silence settled over the parking lot. Maya's knees felt weak. What is happening? She whispered. Adrian turned to her, his expression softer now but serious. This, he said, is the part I hoped you'd never see. She looked at him, fear and confusion swirling together. You said only call if I needed help, she said shakily. I didn't call. I know, Adrian replied. That's why I came. Her breath hitched. Who are you? Adrian hesitated, then decided. My name is Adrian Vale, he said, and people like him don't like it when I pay attention to things they don't control. That's not an answer, Maya said. It's the safest one for now, he replied. She hugged herself, trying to stop shaking. I just returned a wallet, she said. I didn't ask for any of this. Adrian nodded. I know, he met her eyes. But sometimes, he continued, doing the right thing puts you in the wrong place. Maya looked at the darkening sky, at the empty parking lot, at the man standing between her and something she didn't understand. What happens now? She asked. Adrian didn't sugarcoat it. Now, he said, you're under my protection. Fear flared again. And if I don't want it? Adrian's voice dropped. Then someone else will decide your future for you. Maya swallowed hard. For the first time since she picked up that wallet, she understood the truth. Her kindness hadn't gone unnoticed, it had been claimed. And Act 3 ended with Maya standing at the edge of a world where good intentions came with dangerous consequences, and where the man watching her closely was the only thing standing between her and people who would never let her walk away. Maya didn't go home that night. She sat in the back seat of Adrian Vale's car, hands clenched in her lap, watching the city blur past through tinted glass. The silence inside the vehicle felt heavier than the threat she'd just escaped. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Maya broke it. You said I was off limits, she said quietly. Why? Adrian sat across from her, posture calm, eyes alert even in the dim light. Because someone needs to draw the line. That doesn't answer my question, she replied. He studied her for a moment, then nodded slightly. Fair. The car slowed as they approached a red light. Outside, people laughed on a sidewalk cafe, unaware of how close danger had come to spilling into their night. I run things, Adrian said plainly. Businesses, people, routes, decisions that never make the news. Maya's chest tightened. You're. Yes, he said that. She swallowed hard. You're a mafia boss, she whispered. Adrian didn't correct her. That man earlier, Maya continued, he said I was leverage. Yes, Adrian replied, because you made a choice in public that contradicted how our world works. Her voice shook. I returned a wallet. And proved something dangerous, Adrian said, that you can't be bought. The car turned into a quiet underground garage and rolled to a stop. Security lights flicked on overhead. Adrian gestured. Come inside, we're safer talking there. Maya hesitated, then followed. The apartment wasn't what she expected. No gold, no excess, just clean lines, muted colors, and windows that overlooked the river. It felt less like a lair and more like a place designed for control. Adrian poured water into 2 glasses and handed one to her. You're not a prisoner, he said, reading her posture. You can leave. Maya laughed weakly. And go where? He didn't answer that. She took a sip, hands still trembling. What do they want from me? Information, Adrian said. They think you know something I don't. I don't, Maya insisted. He just dropped his wallet. I know, Adrian said, but they don't believe in coincidence. Maya sat down heavily on the couch. This is my fault, she whispered. Adrian shook his head. No. This is the cost of being decent in a world built on exploitation. Before she could respond, Adrian's phone rang. He answered without looking away from her. Yes, he said, a pause. How many? Another pause longer. Handle it, Adrian said calmly. No escalation. He ended the call. Maya's heart raced. What was that? They're testing me, Adrian replied. Daniel doesn't like being told no. She stood abruptly. Then I shouldn't be here. I'm putting you at risk. Adrian's eyes hardened not with anger but resolve. You don't understand, he said. You already are the risk. Gunfire echoed faintly somewhere outside. Maya flinched. Adrian moved instantly, crossing the room to lock the windows and lower the blinds. Stay behind me, he ordered. The sound wasn't close, but it was deliberate. They're making noise, Adrian said, trying to remind me who they are. And who are they? Maya asked, fear creeping into her voice. Men who believe fear is the only currency, Adrian replied, and who think I've gone soft. Her stomach twisted. Because of me? Because I chose you, he said simply. The words landed heavier than she expected. I didn't ask you to, she said. No, Adrian agreed. But you earned it. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside the apartment. Adrian reached into a drawer and pulled out a compact firearm, checking it with practiced ease. Maya's breath hitched. This is insane, she whispered. Yes, Adrian said. But it's also controlled. A knock sounded at the door, 3 slow taps. Adrian's jaw tightened. He didn't move. Another knock harder. Adrian, a voice called. We need to talk. Adrian exhaled slowly and handed the gun to one of his men who'd appeared silently behind him. He turned to Maya. No matter what happens next, remember this, you didn't do anything wrong. The door opened. Daniel Reyes stepped inside, flanked by 2 men. His smile was thin, dangerous. You're making this messy, Daniel said. Adrian crossed his arms. You made it messy the moment you touched her. Daniel glanced at Maya. She's not special. Adrian's voice dropped. She is to me. The room went still. Daniel laughed softly. You're risking everything for a girl who won't even understand what you're losing. Adrian stepped closer. I understand exactly what I'm losing. Daniel's smile faded. Then you're choosing wrong. He nodded once to his men. Before anyone could move, Adrian spoke. Walk out, he said calmly, and this ends with business. And if we do? Daniel asked. Adrian's eyes were cold. Then it ends with funerals. The tension was suffocating. Daniel held Adrian's gaze for a long moment, then raised a hand. Not tonight, Daniel said, but this isn't over. He turned and left. The door closed. Silence returned. Maya collapsed onto the couch, shaking. Adrian finally let out a breath. That, he said quietly, was the warning. She looked at him, tears threatening. I just wanted to do the right thing. Adrian crouched in front of her, meeting her eyes. You did, he said firmly. And now I have to finish what that started. She swallowed hard. What does that mean? Adrian stood. It means, he said, I don't just protect you. His voice was steady, final. I end the threat. Maya felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. Because in choosing to protect her openly, Adrian had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Act 4 ended with protection turning into open war, and Maya realizing that the kindness she'd given freely now carried a price far larger than she'd ever imagined. Act 5 would decide who paid it. The war didn't announce itself. It arrived quietly through closed bank accounts, rerouted shipments, men who didn't answer their phones anymore. By morning, half of Daniel Reyes's operations were frozen, not by police, but by something far more terrifying to men like him: uncertainty. Maya felt it before she understood it. The apartment had become quieter, more controlled. Adrian's people moved with purpose now, not routine. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms, doors locked where they hadn't before. She sat at the kitchen counter, staring at a mug of tea she hadn't touched, listening to Adrian speak on the phone in the next room. "No," he said calmly, "I'm not negotiating." A pause. "You made this personal first." Another pause longer. "Then you've already lost." He ended the call. Maya didn't look up when he entered. "Someone's going to get hurt because of me," she said. Adrian didn't argue. He leaned against the counter across from her. "People were already getting hurt," he said. "You just forced it into the open." That didn't make her feel better. 2 days later it ended. Not with gunfire in the streets, not with headlines screaming violence, with arrests. Federal vehicles blocked off a warehouse near the river. Men were escorted out in handcuffs. Paper trails surfaced. Informants spoke. Deals unraveled. Daniel Reyes was taken in quietly at a private airstrip before dawn. Maya watched the news footage from Adrian's living room, heart pounding. "Did you call the police?" she asked. Adrian shook his head. "I gave them access. To everything, yes." She turned to him, stunned. "That destroys your world too." Adrian nodded once. "I know." For the first time since she'd met him, he looked tired in a way that couldn't be hidden. "I built something that couldn't exist without damage," he said. "Protecting you forced me to admit that." Her voice trembled. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes," he said quietly, "I did." Weeks passed. Maya returned to work at the pharmacy. Customers complained about prices. A child cried in aisle 4. Life went on, but it felt different now. She wasn't followed anymore. The black cars were gone. One afternoon, Adrian asked her to meet him by the river. He stood at the railing, hands in his pockets, watching the water move steadily past. "I'm stepping back," he said without preamble. "From what?" Maya asked. "Everything," he replied. "What's left will be dismantled or absorbed. I won't be there to guide it." She swallowed. "And you?" "I'll answer questions," he said. "Testify where necessary, accept consequences." She stared at him. "Why?" Adrian finally looked at her. "Because you returned a wallet," he said. "And didn't ask for anything." Silence settled between them. "I never wanted to change your life," he added. "You didn't," Maya replied softly. "I did." On her last night in the apartment, Maya packed quietly. Her grandmother had already moved into a better place, one Adrian had arranged without explanation or obligation. Medical bills paid, heat that worked, no strings. Maya insisted on earning everything else herself. As she zipped her bag, Adrian stood in the doorway. "You'll be safe," he said. "No one will touch you," she nodded. "And you?" A faint smile touched his lips. "I'll finally be honest." They stood there, two people whose lives had intersected briefly and violently, then changed forever. Maya hesitated. "Do you regret watching me that night?" Adrian thought for a long moment. "No," he said. "I regret the world where that choice surprised me." She stepped forward and hugged him quickly, awkwardly. "Goodbye," she said. "Goodbye, Maya." Years later, Maya would tell the story simply. She'd returned a wallet once. That was it, no speeches. No dramatics. She studied social work, helped people who'd made one small, good decision and paid too high a price for it. She taught them how to survive systems that didn't reward decency. Sometimes, when the city felt cold, she remembered the weight of that wallet in her hand and the choice she made without knowing anyone was watching. And she smiled. Because even in a world ruled by fear and power, one honest act had been enough to force a reckoning. Not because it was loud, but because it was real. And that was the lesson Maya carried forward. You never know who's watching, but you always know who you are.